Hello and welcome, this is From the Deck to the White Tee. This is my first video and I'm bringing to you my first deck profile, which is SALAMANGREAT PREDAPLANT. So, let's get started. First of all is of course the monsters. I played 2 copies of SALAMANGREAT Gazelle. The reason of this is because I didn't bought a third copy of the structure deck, so I don't have third copies of Gazelle or Spinny. But it still works, so next is 2 copies of SALAMANGREAT Spinny, 3 copies of SALAMANGREAT Foxy, pretty good card. Next, a copy of SALAMANGREAT Mirror. This is the equivalent of a danger card because if you add it from the deck to your hand, except during the draw phase of course, you can special summon it. And you can discard 1 SALAMANGREAT card, normally Spinny, and you can special summon it, so it's pretty good. Next, 1 copy of SALAMANGREAT Fall, 1 of SALAMANGREAT Falco, and finally 1 of SALAMANGREAT Jaguar. Next, there are the extenders of the plays. I played 2 copies of Lady Debug. Also, the reason for 2 copies of Lady Debug is because I cannot afford a third copy. For the PREDAPLANT combo, I played 2 copies of Longfire Blossom, 3 copies of PREDAPLANT Otris Scorpio, and 1 copy of PREDAPLANT Darlingtonia Cobra. You know what happens? I sometimes just draw the Darlingtonia Cobra, so I'm not happy to see that card in my hand. Also, I played 3 copies of Crusadia Reclusia. Pretty good card. It can pop out a card of your opponent's field. And finally, 1 Psychic Tracker. It special summons itself if there's another level 3. You should not have any problem having level 3s in your field. Next on the extenders of the plays, 2 copies of SALAMANGREAT Sanctuary. Pretty good field spell. They let you Reincarnation Link summon as an unofficial term. 2 copies of SALAMANGREAT Circle. The road out of the deck, they can add you the SALAMANGREAT monster you need at the moment. 2 copies of Will of the SALAMANGREAT. The soul charge of the deck. They give you monsters for you to link summon again. Monster Reborn and Foolish Burial. Pretty good extenders. And finally, for the targets of the PREDAPLANT combo, 1 copy of Fusion of Fire and 1 copy of Super Polymerization. This last one is pretty used in the side deck, but because my deck has not that consistency, not the full power of the SALAMANGREAT deck, I played it on my main deck, because I can get to SALAMANGREAT Violet Chimera on the battle phase and kill my opponent easily. It is not a SALAMANGREAT deck without the control part, right? Well, I played the 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Jojo Spring. I don't have to explain why 2 copies of Ash Blossom. There's a pretty good hand trap. 1 copy of Effect Veiler. I would play 2, but I lent one of my Veilers and I haven't seen it in a while. 1 copy of SALAMANGREAT Rage. This is actually a pretty good trap card. It can destroy your opponent's things. For example, in the end phase, you can play it against Sky Striker deck and just pop up all the cards they just set with the multi-roll. 1 copy of Warning, as if I can play more, obviously. And 2 copies of Roar. It's searchable. You can send it to the graveyard and bring it back by its own effect. You can add it from the graveyard to your hand. You can set it. Pretty good card, really. For the extra deck, I played 2 copies of Violet Chimera. This is the easiest way to kill your opponent because it can double its attack. Next, 2 copies of Mirage Talio. Mirage Talio is a great card, a free SALAMANGREAT monster, because why not? 1 copy of Baguska, because sometimes you break and you have 2 level 4s and you want something to protect your life points. 2 copies of Bella Links, the terraforming of the deck without using spaces in your main deck. Next, of course, 1 Flame Administrator, This should be really what is this called? Of the Jammer. Pretty good card, that one. Flame Administrator, comparable. 2 copies of Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf, pretty good card. It can recycle your Ash Blossom that you use in your opponent's first turn. 3 copies of Salamangreat Hit Leo. Hit Leo, obviously a good card. It can pop back your opponent's back row into the deck. That's not once per turn. And it can change your opponent's monster's attack because it can. And finally, 1 copy of Borreload Dragon, just in case of the YOLO. I want to kill my opponent with Borreload. I can steal their monsters with that. You do not need help for killing your opponent. So yeah, this is just a boss monster, if you want to call it like that. Finally, as a sad excuse for a side deck, because I cannot afford a side deck, I play 1 copy of Dogoran, the Mad Flying Kaiju. It should be Gameciel, but sadly Gameciel belongs to my World Chalice deck. I hope to make a deck profile on that too. Another copy of Salamangreat Fall. I mean, this just is a great card. If you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you can get a monster for free, basically. 1 copy of Ghost and Match. Ghost and Match is not searchable. You depend on you to draw it. Sometimes it just doesn't matter because your opponent is another player with a Salamangreat deck. So I just play it. In the case my opponent plays, I don't know, a Vanilla Beater or something like that. Solemn Strike and Solemn Judgment. I mean, this is the killing part. The part when you say, oh, I can use my life points to negate your stuff. And you finally kill yourself with these cards. And finally, 1 Little Chimera as an alternative for my extra deck instead of the Jammer or the sad attempt with Flame Administrator. I just played 2 Little Chimera. 2 fire monsters, easy to put it on the field, and it boosts your Salamangreat monsters, which I think that's good. So yeah, that's for the first video. I hope you guys liked my first deck profile. I want to bring you my 2 other decks, which are Odice and War Chalice. So I hope you liked this video, and please don't share it because sincerely this video is awful. So thank you for watching, and I see you when I can.